This week on Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke, we turn the table.
Have you ever wondered about Molly Buccola, the founder, facilitator, and host behind our Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke? Guests and listeners often ask about her journey. What led her to this work? How her own experiences shaped the stories we share, and why is this mission so personal to her? In this special episode, we're sharing an interview from Recovery After Stroke, where host Bill Gasiamis speaks with Molly about her path, offering a deeper look into her life. She opens up about loss, rediscovery, and the power of storytelling, giving you a glimpse behind the mic into the heart and purpose that drive this organization. Thank you for joining us for Part 1, Molly Buccola, interviewed by Bill Gasiamis.
Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke is made possible by our guests and tax-deductible donations from friends and listeners like you. Join us in empowering stroke survivors with stories of wisdom, purpose, connection, and hope at www.beyondstillness.org.
Hello and welcome to Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke. Stroke offers a powerful, life-changing shift in perspective. Each colorful memory creates a parable for life's greater teachings, a compass for journeys ahead, and inspired wisdom for unique growth. Beyond Stillness offers a moment of pause for storytelling and reflection. Ultimately, we create a welcoming environment that reveres the moment beyond stroke's paralysis. Still moments unite humanity and divinity. As we begin today, we take a moment of pause, a moment to honor the wisdom, purpose, connection, and hope that emerges through recovery. And we give thanks. Now, part 1 of my interview on recovery after stroke with Bill Gasiamis.
I'm thrilled to be joined by Molly Buccola, a stroke survivor and the founder of Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke. Molly's journey began in 2005 when she was diagnosed with a venous sinus thrombosis, a rare and life-threatening condition that led to paralysis and intensive recovery. Since then, Molly has turned her challenges into opportunities to inspire and support others. Through Beyond Stillness, Molly provides a platform for stroke survivors to share their stories, cultivate connection, and find hope. In this episode, we'll explore Molly's powerful journey, her work with Beyond Stillness, and how storytelling can be a transformative tool for healing and growth. Molly Buccola, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Bill.
It's so lovely to have you here. Tell me a little bit about what happened to you.
It's been a long time, and I don't remember most of it, but in college, 19 years ago, the last semester of my senior year, I slept until 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm an early riser normally. I like to get up and go for a run, and I always chose the morning classes so that I could have the whole afternoon. So I slept until 4 o'clock, and my roommate returned home and woke me, and I was speaking words, but the words didn't make sense.
To you or to the other person?
I don't remember any of this. And so to the other person, to my roommate, Annie, I stumbled to the restroom, and of course it scared her. So she called my sister, who lived fairly close by, and she called her sister, who was a nurse, and both of them said, get her to the hospital. When I arrived, they didn't know what it was. I was only 21 at the time, and this is in 2005. They tested for a lot of different things. They thought maybe late stage syphilis, like they were throwing anything out there. And they thought maybe I was on drugs, and my roommate was like, she doesn't do drugs. They were very confused. And then by the time they figured it out, I was in a coma. And thankfully, the hospital I was at had just been certified a stroke center. The neurologist had a monthly or a weekly meeting with neurologists from the area, and they met that evening. They weren't sure what they could do at that point. I had a blood clot in my straight sinus, so I was bleeding into both hemispheres. And I, Bill, I don't know the timeline for sure,
That's
but
all right.
one of the neurologists at the meeting worked at another local hospital, and it was too dangerous to transfer me at that point. So he drove from Stanford Hospital over to Good Sam in Los Gatos and worked on me there. It was a medical trial at that point. They tried something that had only been tried a few times, and the only person who had ever tried it was out of the country presenting on it. And so that neurologist walked my surgeon through the procedure. And the procedure helped a lot, but it didn't do everything. The main clot in the sinus straight was still there. My family had flown down to California from Oregon at that point and was making the decisions, and they asked, is there anything else they can do? And they said, no, we can't do anything. We can't do anything except we can transfer her to a teaching hospital. At that point, they transferred me to University of UCSF, University of California, San Francisco. And I spent the rest of my time there. Again, I don't remember any of it, Bill.
Have the gaps been filled in by people?
It's a great question. Yes. All the gaps are stories from other people. I don't remember any of those.
Yeah.
Similar to you. You
Yeah.
had points that you don't quite remember.
Yeah. People definitely filled in the gaps, and I'm grateful for that because it makes more of a compelling story rather than I had a stroke and then I don't remember anything and here I am. So interesting. Of all the stuff that you just spoke about, the one thing that stood in my mind was syphilis. It's a neurological disease and it's a sexually transmitted disease. Al Capone died of complications due to syphilis. That's the only person that I have ever heard of or known about that died because of it. But it wasn't an issue many, many decades ago. I don't know how much of an issue it is now. But that's interesting, isn't it? That they don't think about stroke. They think about all these other random things. But when it comes to a 21-year-old, one thing that doesn't cross their mind, or it didn't then, and perhaps even today, it still happens. Stroke is not in the awareness of a lot of people that are treating patients in hospitals when it comes to a 21-year-old.
Yeah. I'm hearing more about it now, but I didn't know anyone, especially my age, who had had a stroke. My guess is the medical professionals are having more and more experience treating stroke.
Absolutely. Things are getting better from an awareness perspective, and the fact that there is a specific stroke hospitals and stroke ambulances and protocols around potentially treating stroke. And then the symptoms of stroke are very much in the community. People know what to look like for the majority of strokes. FAST acronym has made a massive impact in that area. And it's very common in young people. And I imagine it would be even more common than syphilis in young people. Like, really? How long were you in hospital? Do you know the details of how long you were in when you got out and where you went to after hospital?
Yeah, so I was only in for maybe 10 days. I'm not sure the exact extent. And they didn't send me to inpatient rehab. I moved in with my sister who lived fairly close, and my mom moved down from Oregon to take care of me there.
And then college, what happens there? Does it just go on pause? Does it, what happens to the life of a 21-year-old after they've had a stroke?
That's a good question. That's what I was asking myself, Bill. What now? The last semester of college, people are preparing for the next step in life. And so I had arranged to volunteer abroad for the next couple years. I was set up with an organization and I was ready. I was so excited after going through such a discernment process on what's the next step after college and weighing all your options. And then you think, okay, I've got it. And of course, life throws us a curveball when we think we've got it. The next step in terms of graduating, I was in a fairly small program at a university. I was graduating in religious studies and psychology, knew my professors pretty well, and so they worked with me on finishing the courses in ways that I could. I'm very grateful for that in order to finish on time, even if I'm not going to classes every day. They worked with me to try to figure out different ways to go through that. Then again, I'm going through a pretty major life experience, and religious studies and psychology are both very central to that life experience. It was a way for me to reflect on that experience in light of those disciplines also.
You hear adults like me say, oh, there wouldn't be anything worse
Are
than
you
going
an
to a
adult?
psych. I am out of the age of an adult. But yes, that's a very lovely question because depends who you ask. They might disagree with my statement about myself. Um, Adults like me, who are of an age of an adult at 50, would often have conversations with people that goes, there'd be nothing worse than going into a counseling session and having a kid who's just qualified as a counselor or has just studied psychology to take you through an issue, because what do they know about life? They've not ever had any life experience. Yet you are 21 and you're having a dramatic amount of life experience all in a short amount of time, and you're studying psychology and religion, or you're trying to get a grasp of religious beliefs and different versions of religion. What is that study specifically about? And then I want to talk about how those two topics supported you.
Hmm. Yes, religious studies, the program, we studied a variety of world religions. And I just think it's fascinating to this day to explore spirituality and how it shows up in different cultures and different people. And it was interesting how they connected throughout spirituality and psychology. And I believe they're the basis of humans, of connection, and it's fluid. Yeah.
Hmm.
So you had a second part to your question. What was the second part?
Yeah, how did they support you in the recovery? So you're dealing with some big existential issues at that age after a stroke, I imagine. And the years that you spent studying religious studies and psychology would have intersected beautifully with what you're going through, but also provided a 21-year-old with a lot more of an understanding about those two topics. And often people dive deeply into philosophical, psychological, and religious type of topics after a massive life event. And you've done that really, really early on. How did they support you? Did they support you?
That's a really good question, first off. And I'd love to say that I figured it all out at 21 because I had gone through this, but really it was probably a new beginning, right? Because you can study concepts and you can write papers on concepts. And at that point, my whole heart was in it. I believed in him and I was passionate about him. And then all of a sudden this happened. I was like, what was that? I thought I had it figured out. And instead of it making sense to me at that point, I was thrown into confusion. And it's not until now, 19 years later, that I'm actually reflecting back on that experience. Like I said before, I didn't know anyone. And once I relearned how to walk and feed myself and bathe myself and live on my own, I did. And I didn't talk with other people about stroke because I didn't know anyone, and it's a long story. If people asked me, of course I would tell them, but I didn't know how it all fit. And I definitely don't have it all figured out now. I don't know how it all fits, but it's brought me back to this beautiful community in which you're a part. And it's led me to these inspiring people from all over the world and all walks of life and all ages and economic backgrounds and cultures. And I'm in awe of the way that everyone moves forward in a different way.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's so important what you said, moves forward, because that's the theme of every person who I've had on the podcast is they're moving forward, scarred, fatigued from the battle with their recovery and from what's happening in their life because of stroke, often dragging themselves along, being dragged by other people, sometimes getting nowhere, sometimes having good progress, dealing with stuff that they never expected to deal with, emotions and mental health and physical health and all this stuff, right? And yet they are moving forward. They're somehow continuing to do that. And that's what I hope my podcast does, is it gives people an insight of where things were and how we're grappling with them, and then how we're moving forward. And that is the hope part of it, right? We're trying to provide hope and give people a sense of, all right, you're probably doing it tough now, but there's still movement forward. You will still move forward. A little bit earlier when we spoke about your religious studies, did you go into religious studies with a religion, with an upbringing of religion, or was there any of that stuff that you had with you when you started those studies?
Yes, I went to Catholic school growing up and I was raised Catholic, and I hope my high school religion teachers aren't listening to this, but I hated my religion classes in high school. But I went to a Catholic university, and part of graduating from the university is you have to take a few religious studies courses, I think 3 courses. And I left them to my senior year because I didn't like my religion courses in high school. So I took all 3 of them the first semester, or the first quarter, I think we had quarters of senior year, and ended up loving it. I had a Jesuit professor that made us sit cross-legged in the mission church every morning at 7 a.m. And we were like, 7 a.m.? We go to bed at as college students, you're not used to arriving at 7 a.m. to a silent place of worship. Every day of the week, we had to meet there and sit cross-legged in silence and meditate for 20 minutes.
Wow.
And he taught us a variety of ways to meditate, and we got to put it into practice. And that was the beginning of my formal meditation practice. But those courses opened a new door for me.
Mm. They would, especially at that age. Not only have you, uh, you're doing college life and there's a bit of studying involved and some partying and all that kind of stuff. But the reality is, at 21, you haven't really ever woken up to go anywhere at 7 a.m.
I did love running at 7 a.m. and it cut into that
Oh,
schedule.
oh my gosh. Okay, you were one of those people. I get it. Okay. All
Bill,
right. So
you've
you were
become one of those people, I know.
uh-huh. Well, so you had a little bit of a leg up. At least you had the ability to get there and be there. But then you discovered this thing called meditation, which you totally didn't expect, which was brand new to you. And what an awesome gift to give to a 21-year-old or however old you were when you first started that, right? I think that's an amazing thing because I think 21-year-olds these days are lacking resources. They've got heaps of information because the internet's full of them, don't eat this and don't do that and eat this and eat that. But they actually don't have tools. I think they don't have tools that they can fall back on when they need when things are tough, right? Did you fall back on meditation through your recovery?
Mm. Meditation from that point forward was a part of my life. I'm sure that it informed my recovery. I'm not sure if I thought of it in that way, that this is going to help my recovery. At that point, I was meditating, I was journaling, and I still am. I'm sure that that helped the process. Like I said, I don't remember many of the months after my stroke. And when I go back and read the journal, I read fairly dark moments. And I've always been a fairly optimistic person. And I don't know if I was giving off that I was feeling those dark moments, but to go back and read those, meditation could have helped me navigate those thoughts. But I can't say for sure. I'm not sure, Bill.
Mm.
Based on what we know for brain science, it did.
I feel
I
like
don't
it
know.
was one of those things, again, because it was a habit, like your 7 o'clock running. If it was just something that you did, then you didn't reflect on it too much. You just did it. And like journaling, it seems like both of those were actually integral parts of the foundation to your recovery. And you don't have to know that you've got great foundations. If you're doing it and you don't know, that's even better.
Yeah. That's the hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So journaling is one of those things that I don't like to do. I tried it a couple of times and I just feel like it's uh, not the right tool for me. I suppose for me, the right tool is talking out loud to people and connecting with people and doing it that way. And that's why I went to counseling. My habit was counseling from about the age of 25, 26 onwards. It still is. And sometimes I don't go for many months and sometimes I go more often. What was it like as a person that's of adult age? How do you reflect on those dark times? Like when you read the stuff that you wrote, what does it do to you? How do you respond? Do you have to respond? What do you feel for young 21-year-old Molly?
Yeah. Those are really good questions. Do you have to respond? That's a really important one. I hadn't thought of it like that. It's like listening to another person. And I feel blessed that people have trusted me with their dark moments And so it feels like sitting with one of those people and holding that space for them, but also knowing that we're just at one point within this longer journey. And a lot of times that one point is so painful, and it's hard to look past that point. But like we were talking about earlier, 19 years later, I look back and I think, it all makes sense. It's led me to these people. It's led me to where I am now. I was able to apply my retreat work, my work at the monastery, my work in schools, all of it to what I'm doing now. And I had no idea when I was going through each of those individual professional experiences, passions, relationships, all of them. I had no idea that they all wove together in a way that was leading to this moment, to Beyond Stillness. And that's essentially what this is, right? When we have a stroke, when someone has a stroke, we're forced to be still. Our body forces us to be still. Our mind forces us to be still. Our whole spiritual being is still for a moment. And we're forced to think, what is this? Why, where everything is confusing and it's a dark moment, and it's hard to see past that dark moment. But there is a beyond stillness, beyond the physical, beyond this world, I believe. I think there's a very big spiritual element involved.
You've got the proof that there is beyond stillness, because you've got the actual recording of that version of stillness for you from back in the day. You wrote it down. It was there, dark moments and difficult time. And now you're 19 years post, and you can actually see that distance, right? That you've traversed. You've gone from one to the other, and now you're here, and now you're reflecting, and you're going, wow, I was pretty cool, as in I didn't know, but I was doing all these things, and that there's skills that I can superimpose over here and take to the next level with my next project, whatever that project is.
And Bill, what I've found is a lot of the people that I work with in crafting their story for the podcast, we have 7 weeks or so that we work together and we have conversations about, yes, the story, but it's a reflective space. So we go beyond the writing, the actual story. We dive into them as a person and how they see the world and how their perspective shifted. And there's so much that goes on to every individual story. And when we're able to look back on our whole lives and the moment of stillness, we see something different.
Yeah.
But it's so familiar because it's us.
Thank you for listening to Part 1, Molly Buccola on Recovery After Stroke with Bill Gasiamis. Stick with us for Part 2.
Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke is made possible by our guests and tax-deductible donations from friends and listeners like you. Join us in empowering stroke survivors with stories of wisdom, purpose, connection, and hope at www.beyondstillness.org. Another way to support is to like, share, or subscribe to our weekly show. Again, thank you for devoting time and space for this week's episode of Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke.
Each colorful memory creates a parable for life's greater teachings, a compass for journeys ahead, and inspired wisdom for unique growth. We hope this conversation with Bill Gasiamis gave you a deeper understanding of my journey and the passion behind our organization. If this interview resonated with you, please like, share, or subscribe, and consider donating to Beyond Stillness Stories After Stroke. And remember, as part of the stroke community, you are more than supportive. You are inspirational.